it's not like a condemnation or like a moral condemnation against like you as a single parent or anything, but like I don't think that we can deny the reality of what the statistics and what the available research says. It doesn't mean that 100% of the time a nuclear family is always better, but the research is here. It's pretty much like a universally accepted fact at this point. No, I'm not at all. It's
Oh, you're
obvious that this is a.
mischaracterizing.
I'll explain to you why this is a giant virtue
I
signal,
don't need you
because
to
we've
explain
already.
to me a
All right,
fucking
well then let
thing.
me explain it to
Alright?
the audience and
I
someone that might have the brain capacity to
I would
understand what
like
I'm
to hear it,
saying.
and you'll be able to throw it over to Hunter Avalon.
Sure. So I actually wrote up something a little bit for this. So, in most cases, the nuclear family has been demonstrated to be good for children. Stability tends to lead to better behavior and healthier growth. But I think that how we recognize and support nuclear families needs to change. For one, we can start by accepting LGBT parents. It sounds like most people on this panel already agree with this, that two parents raising a child is a good environment, and that applies to both straight and gay couples. So there's two main issues right now with how society interacts with the nuclear family. First, I think the nuclear family needs stronger communal support, whether that be geographically or through extended family. Secondly, if a parental absence occurs, the default should not be single parenthood, but rather communal child rearing. Although this might sound a little out there, this is a much better alternative to single parenthood, and the limited research we actually have on communal parenting shows pretty positive results. So ultimately, the nuclear family, it seems to be a good thing, but nuclear families aren't always attainable, and if our interest is in the betterment of children, preserving the nuclear family needs to go hand in hand with communal support and LGBT rights.
Okay, now we're going to go over to BX Bullets, and CTV seems to have disappeared into the nether realm.
Well, it's interesting that I'm going to have like the first like base take here. Anyways, hi, single mom. The value of a nuclear family is a myth that needs to die. All right. So for one thing, I think that whatever prevalent family dynamic is, like a given time, tends to be a reflection of society. So as society evolves, so do family dynamics. It's not something that's going to be static throughout history, right? For example, now we've got like more workforce equality. We got more opportunities for women in the workplace, for example. And I think any detriments that arise from single parent households are really more likely to arise from socioeconomic factors, not just from like, not having a dad or whatever. So I don't think we should be trying to force fit a particular family dynamic. I think it makes sense to just adapt alongside society. I also think that people who praise a nuclear family completely disregarding other types of families that are oftentimes just as good. Like in my case, I'm divorced, and I think my daughter's upbringing can be best described as like an extended family upbringing on both sides of the table. But what's important is she's got tons of supportive family. I work my ass off to make sure she's got a good upbringing, and she's got all the opportunities she needs in life. I truly believe she would be worse off if I were still married to her dad, because that shit was toxic as fuck. You can't just say that two parents in a household is going to be magically better. Like, not everybody had that kind of upbringing. Not everybody's better off in a nuclear family. So lots of different types of families can be good. I also think that the biggest problem with glorifying nuclear family is it leads to stigma, and even like in some cases like discrimination against single parents, like who honestly might not be at fault at all, like in the case that a parent dies or something. And I think sometimes that idealized nuclear family can even lead to like a self-fulfilling prophecy where single parents end up with this stigma and this pressure that ends up straining their relationship with their kids and could even lead to poor outcomes just because of that. So one more thing I add, I was kind of like looking into some of the data out there, because I was looking at some different takes on this, looking at the data that shows that, kids tend to grow up and succeed more with like a nuclear family type of environment. But there's a lot of controversy around that, because it's kind of equating correlation to causation. And obviously there's tons of factors that determine a child's success, not whether it has a mom and a dad or two moms or two dads. And again, like we see the nuclear family being exclusive to LGBT, so that's definitely an issue. So no, I don't think we need to be wasting time and resources trying to preserve the nuclear family. I think it's a fucking waste of time, and we should just let it die.
Okay, and to wrap us up is the leader of the Wolf Pack, CTV.
Well, I think that it's important for everyone to realize that when it comes to preserving the nuclear family, right? We're talking about, man, woman has kids, right? When a man and a woman get together and they end up having children, right? One of the best things that those parents can do throughout the course of the child's life is to show stability, right? And conflict resolution. Because if you don't know how to resolve conflict, then you ultimately end up in a perpetual state of emotions, right? So, whenever I consider the idea, it's obvious to me that the way that children come into this world is whenever a man and a woman get together and they, say, get the sperm and the egg together, right? So then when that happens, there's a child brought into the world. Now, regardless from there, the individuals that engaged in the act are responsible for the creation of it. Now, there's a lot of situations out there where kids were put up for adoption or any number of cases where kids need to be adopted, right? So this is exactly where any other body that maybe doesn't have the ability to have a child can step in there and fill that role, right? No issues with any part of that. But when it comes to the idea of the broad population of the planet, right? It's obvious that it starts with a man and a woman mixing the sperm and egg together to create the life. And I think that preserving the idea that if you're willing to engage in that kind of activity and possibly bring the life to bear, that you should be responsible for the life and be doing so together. That's just my take.
Okay, now you're allowed to engage with somebody else in a more open format. You're free to discuss. At the end of the discussion, you have a 1-minute outro segment, uninterrupted as well. It's open.
Okay. So something real quick. So just because I'm praising the nuclear family doesn't mean that I'm saying that the nuclear family is the best option for everyone, where the father of the kid needs to stay in the picture, because oftentimes, or not oftentimes, there can be times when the father is abusive, when it's not the best idea for the mother to stay in the picture. At that exact same time, the kid needs to find someone else who can take the role of the father figure. According to Psychology Today, there are 14 things that are found to be true statistically with an absence of a father figure. Children's diminished self-concept and compromised physical and emotional security, behavioral problems, truancy and poor academic performance, delinquency and youth crime, promiscuity and teen pregnancy, drug and alcohol abuse, homelessness, exploitation abuse, abuse and emotional maltreatment, physical health problems, mental health disorders, life chances, future relationships, and mortality.
All right, I have a
those
question.
are the 14 things that
I have a
Psychology Today.
question.
Go ahead.
I do have a question. Somebody else said this before, but like, okay, what are we trying to do to force people to fit into this mold?
What's the
Like,
proposal?
obviously, there's situations where it's not going to happen. Great. Yeah, that's great. Oh, mom and a dad and a loving marriage and everything is perfect. That's not reality.
Yeah.
It's
not
oftentimes
reality for
not.
everybody.
It's
So
oftentimes
how are
not.
you supposed to? How are you trying to preserve it? That's my question. Like through
That's what I
policy.
would ask. Yeah, what exactly does it mean by encourage or try and foster it? What practical public policy choices are people trying to make to force people into this preconceived idea of what a family
And all I
unit
can
is?
think is like
I mean,
tax law and stuff, where like you get different tax credits for double income, but
Or whatever.
Okay, well, I want to for Supreme, but I want to make sure Hunter was trying to say something.
No, it's
earlier,
okay.
so
Go ahead. Go. Please
Okay.
give it to the next guy.
Okay. Real quick, I want to set up this straw man so that we can all recognize it's a straw man. I want to see if anybody agrees with this line of reasoning, because there's a line of reasoning that's often posited by trad cons on various platforms that there is a problem with subsidizing single mother homes or something like that, and that like there are women who are, in order to collect welfare checks, like kicking father figures out of the home or something like that, which seems like a completely backwards analysis
that's
to me.
ridiculous, dude.
yeah,
Nobody's doing that.
Yeah.
I
it's-
just
Give me your
wanna-
sperm now. Get out. I need my
Well-
money. Like, who really does that though? Like, how
But
big of a problem is that?
This is a popular line of reasoning in like conservative circles, and I want to just like I'm wondering if anybody
People
subscribes
abuse
to
the
that.
welfare system no matter what.
Well,
I mean,
Right.
I
so-
personally think it's I personally think this system is necessary to, because it's for like children, right? Like I've never met a single mother who like prefers not having help around the house, or like
Single
you know,
mother subsidies or anything like that should be targeted to lower income single mothers.
Yeah, I
Because
don't
there are
think.
plenty of single mothers out there who are doing just fine. I can promise.
Yeah, I don't
Promise.
think anyone's making the decision either to leave a partner or to get married or to do any of these massive life decisions on the basis of an incremental tax incentive or something. Like
That's a
people
little
don't
weird
make
to
those
me.
massive life decisions
I guess it's
based on
possible.
$5 a week or something. Like no one cares. That's not why people are doing anything.
So to kind of respond to what BX Bullet was asking to begin with is that I don't think it's forced. I think it should be encouraged. I think that the statistics strongly show that children who grow up with any kind of father figure, and again, it doesn't have to be the biological father. It's just someone this kid sees as a father.
So what's the function of bringing this up, though?
I'm sorry.
What is the function of bringing this up?
What's the function of bringing this up? That it's miles and miles better for a kid.
You know,
having
listen,
bi-
hold on.
to
I'm
have
going
a
to stop you
father
right there
figure.
because I feel like hold on. I think that we're basing this on.
I wanna allow Sprout to finish. He wasn't getting to talk there. Sprout, you can finish.
Okay, it's miles and miles better for children to have some kind of father figure in the house because according to studies from Psychology Today, it obviously shows that fathers have an important part in developing a child, just as important as the mother does. So it could go the opposite way around. That if you're a single father, that you should find someone that this kid can take as a mother figure to them because they're gonna need both the mother and the father figure to do what to not. I guess not gonna need it to do well, but it
Just
definitely
so I
helps.
understand correctly, the function of you bringing this up is because it sounds like you're proposing as a solution that, for example, single mothers that don't have a father figure in the house should just find one. It sounds like
Yeah,
that's
that's a
solution.
little. That's
Yeah,
kind of what I
you can
got
say
out
that.
of.
You can
not
say
what
that,
he's
but
saying, just in
a
general.
grandpa can be considered a father figure. An uncle can be considered a father figure.
Right.
I'm
That's
not
true,
saying,
but that's
I'm
not a
I'm
nuclear
saying go.
family
I'm saying
setting.
I'm not.
Well, that would be more in the communal thing, like kind of like what I was talking
Yeah.
about.
Like,
And
I mean,
also,
my parents have a. Oh, sorry, go ahead.
I was just
Go
gonna
ahead.
say, like the thing is when we're talking about like statistics, and then you have like a personal experience with this, it's not like a condemnation or like a moral condemnation against like you as a single parent or anything. But like, I don't think that we can deny the reality of what the statistics and what the available research says. It doesn't mean that 100% of the time a nuclear family is always better, but the research is here. It's pretty much like a universally accepted fact at this point that having two parents provides stability, and that's really, really important for the raising of a child. Now, I don't
Yeah,
think that
but
it has to be
So
a mother
what do
or
you
a father.
want to do to make that happen?
Well, I'm not necessarily talking even about preserving it, but your original claim, if I'm not mistaken, was that like it's all just like a myth and this needs to die out. But like,
I really think it is.
but
I
there are
mean,
some
coming
very
from the
real.
perspective of a single mom and knowing a lot of other single parents who are doing just fine. Their kids are just fine. I know a lot of
Sure, this
friends
doesn't
who were raised by single parents who are just fine. It's anecdotal at best.
Well, this
No,
is
what
the thing,
you're
it's not-
giving me is anecdotes at best.
Well, no, but it's
Yours
not.
is,
well,
are
the
anecdotes.
problem with the
I'm giving you
data-
data.
The problem with the data is that there's all kinds of other factors that could perhaps cause certain types of demographics to be less likely to have a nuclear family. And there's
That's
all
true.
kinds of different demographic issues and socioeconomic factors that could factor into that. That's
That's
why
true.
that's
I'm not
why
denying
that
that.
data that you're quoting is so controversial. Because people have been very quick to point out that there's any number of factors that can go into what causes a kid to succeed and what causes a nuclear family to dissolve.
That's
Okay,
true.
so I've got a question.
Wait,
So
give me a moment. I want to make sure Hunter has time to respond. I'm gonna write down Sprout and Kevin because both of you want to say things.
All I
okay?
was going to
So
say
Hunter-
is it's true that there are a wide range of socioeconomic circumstances. Sometimes, like you said, it is not the fault of the single parent that they are even a single parent. I'm not making any moral claim here. All I'm trying to do is get you to acknowledge that your initial claim that this idea that like a nuclear family is generally better for a child is like somehow a myth or something. That's pretty ridiculous considering.
Okay. Perhaps even if we're gonna just take the data at face value and say it's not a myth, what is honestly the benefit to telling single mothers, well, a nuclear family would be better? It would be better if your kid had a dad in the house. What
Well,
is the benefit?
we
And
probably
how
wouldn't
are
want
we
to tell
going to
people
preserve
that,
it?
but well, we don't probably
we
wouldn't
gonna-
want to
how are
tell
we
people
gonna
that. But the
preserve it?
point of me telling you that right now in this debate is just to correct what you said at the beginning. That's all.
Well, wouldn't it be?
Well, it's not a correction. It's just that's my opinion.
I
But,
think
mean,
the
you can
issue-
disagree.
Well, but your opinion's wrong. Like it's
We're gonna
just
go
an
to Sprout
opinion.
first.
That's all it
Sprout.
is.
Kevin and
So-
IRI.
okay, so I think the issue the issue we're coming across is how would you do this legally? How would you do this? I'm just saying encourage it.
What does that mean, though?
I don't. So if I could continue going, I'm not really sure how to encourage it. So once we can get on a basis of saying, okay, this should be encouraged, maybe we could talk about how we could encourage this in a way that helps everyone and doesn't harm single parents. BX Bullet, I'm happy that your kids and the people who you talk to, single parents, their kids are doing great. Unfortunately, that seems to be an outlier according to statistics, because you can't argue with certain statistics like 71% of high school dropouts are fatherless.
What I'm
85% of you.
arguing is that there are other factors that play into certain demographics being less likely to have a nuclear family dynamic that provides a core, like, you're equating correlation with causation. That's why I'm cautioning you on that data. That's what I'm debating.
I don't know that it's correlation with causation when you have something as high as 90%. 90% of runaway children have an absent father.
No, it is correlation.
So,
It's impossible to prove causation virtually, like virtually.
okay,
impossible.
well, do you think
He's
that
presenting an
do you think a father not being in the household is a non-factor for these statistics?
I think it's an unavoidable factor. And that's why my point isn't that like it's better to be a single parent, or it's better to have two families, or it's better to have grandparents. I'm saying what's better for each situation is going to vary, and there's no point in trying to force fit people into a mold, right? What that doesn't necessarily make sense for them. And it does cause stigma. It does create changes in policy. So it is important that we address these kind of issues. Modern day life is different than it was back in the 1950s and 1960s. People are getting married later. People are maybe not getting married at all. People are having kids later. Women in the workforce are actually making a lot more money now. So things are changing in society, and it's okay if the common family dynamic adapts those societal changes. I don't know why we feel a need to just drive home this, no, you need to have two parents raising this child in the house, or the child's going to run away and be.
I don't think
a
anyone's saying that
disaster.
you need to.
Well,
The
that's
problem is
what
just.
you- I know you're not saying it.
Wait. Shut it down. There's so many people talking at the same time. I want to be able to throw it to Kevin, who raised his hand earlier, because
Right.
he was waiting patiently.
Can I take
Then
like 30 seconds?
I
Just
give you
to-
10. I give you 10.
10 seconds is fine. I think the issue when we're talking about preserving the nuclear family is more so that there are other groups such as BLM who have called for the destruction of the nuclear family. So it's more as a response to that than actually preserving. So.
No, that's even wrong. Also,
Yeah,
that's not.
Whoa, hold
Okay.
on.
That's actually a
Oh.
bastardization of the truth. But I wouldn't
not
expect
a
anything
bastardization
better
of the
from
truth.
Sproticus.
It's not a bastardization of the truth. I can pull up where BLM
Your
has said
concept
they're
of
calling for
destroying
the
the
And I
nuclear
can
family
pull up
makes
the
it more
and I can
blamed
pull
than-
up that and I can
One
explain to you
time,
without
please.
pulling anything up that although the claim originally that they made was poorly phrased, sure, what they were actually talking about was getting rid of the normalization of the nuclear family and being more accepting towards communal living, which is sometimes more accessible for these individuals in these black communities where there might be a higher rate of single parenting. We're talking a lot about, should we be encouraging the nuclear family? Should we be encouraging single parenthood? Oftentimes,
Well-
single parenthood is not oftentimes, but a lot of the times
I'm
it's
speaking-
inevitable. So we should talk
so
more
I'm
about
speaking on-
communal parenting rather than anything else
So
here.
I'm speaking on what sparked all of this, and what did spark all of this was communities like BLM calling for the destruction of the nuclear family. Which
They
you're
didn't
obviously
call
not
for
going
the
to deny.
destruction of the
I can
nuclear
pull
family.
up where they called for
What
the
does it
destruction.
matter if
Hey,
some
wait,
friend? What does it
wait,
matter if?
We can just wait till he does that. But I really want to give it to Kevin. Kevin's just been sitting there waiting.
Give it to Kevin while I look it up.
Well, yeah,
IRI and J Trump, I've written you down.
yeah, it's a misnomer to identify fatherlessness as the issue. It's about having ideally two or more parental figures. A, because of socioeconomics. If you've got two incomes, the positive outcomes for that child's life is going to be hugely improved. It's just true. Doesn't mean that a single parent household can't be perfectly good. But as with the example Sprout gave of a grandfather being a father figure, that's not a nuclear family structure. So it doesn't have to be a nuclear family structure to have the benefits of what we see from the data as a nuclear family structure. Okay. And secondly, I think it's an important question to try and ram home. If you want to encourage the nuclear family, what are the public policy initiatives you want to enforce to try and bring that about? Because if you just say, well, I don't really have a plan for this, then all you're doing is conservative virtue signaling, which is empty and pathetic.
Exactly.
Okay, we're gonna throw it over to IRI, then J Trump. Hopefully by then we'll have the direct quote from BLM.
Yeah, I want to just focus on this idea that having a father in the household brings all these wonderful things. I think it just brings another income. It brings more support for spreading responsibilities. And so introducing stuff like the expanded child tax credit that Biden and the Democrats put forward, $300 for kids 5 and under, 6 and up, 250, stuff like that makes a huge difference. And now you take some of the pressure off, and we can have people raising families however they want. I want to ask Sprouticus something, though. Your list of concerns there included promiscuity. Do you think there's something wrong with having many sexual partners?
I think that can statistically lead to other things that are not going to lead you down a successful way of life. Yes, I think that if you have many sexual partners, that you're statistically
Are you
not going to
against
be as
drinking?
successful as someone who has per se one sexual partner.
Are you
I
against
mean, it
drinking?
sounds pretty base to me. I don't know why you would have an issue with that. You should have all the fun you can in life, no?
Well, I mean, I couldn't tell you. I've only had one sexual partner. That's been my wife. So I couldn't tell you.
Well, I can tell you, Bill Gates is pretty successful, and he fucks everybody.
So can I get back to really quickly
Including on
fact checking Sprouticus? So
apparently.
I found the exact claim. Sprouticus, did you find the exact quote, or do you want to read it first?
I did find the exact quote, and I can go ahead and read it for you.
Okay,
We
go ahead.
disrupt the Western prescribed nuclear family structure requirement by supporting each other as extended families of villages that collectively care for one another, especially our children, to the degree that mothers, parents, and children are comfortable.
Okay, so
That's
what
the
did I
exact
say?
quote
I said that
from-
they didn't call to abolish the nuclear family, but rather they were talking about extending that to mean more communal parenting. So thank you
I
for
mean, we
reading the
can look
quote
at-
and now
we-
proving me
so-
right. It was even more
so we-
satisfying
so
hearing
we-
it come
we-
from
so
your
we
mouth.
can-
We can move
so
on to the
we
next
can
topic
look
then.
into-
Thank
we
you for
can
the
look
concession.
into we can look into what disrupt means, and it's not a concession. This is obviously
look
a
into it.
deal and is meant.
Take some time
So
after
you
the
want to
panel
look
and
into it? That's fine. We'll look up the definition.
My dude,
Why does
I'm
it
reading.
matter what they
well,
said,
okay,
though?
okay. Well, we're looking up another thing now. Apparently,
We don't need to look it up anymore. It says right here, Black Lives Matter full statement about family shows that it wants people to
Interrupt by
support one
copying
another
the survey
broadly.
story
Be
problem.
excuse me.
Okay, look.
Just really
okay,
quick.
Gonna be quick.
Dylan, I
Quick,
promise.
got a
10
lot of-
seconds.
A few things.
10 seconds here.
Wait, Hunter, please.
So
Okay,
a few things
I-
like the fact that it says disrupt that
Whoa,
can be
Dylan's trying to
interpreted-
get control of the room. Everybody else shut the fuck up.
Damn. CTV cowboy. I'm gonna throw it over to J Trump, which I'm gonna hand it to him. But I just want to say, another debate about definitions, just like yesterday. It's a fun day here at Dylan Burns TV. You can go back to the disrupt conversation, but I want to get away from the definitions because we're not talking about Black Lives Matter. We're talking about the nuclear family. So I just want to bring us back in. Over to J Trump.
Yeah, so just a quick point on that is like, yeah, you can interpret it either way. Using fuzzy language is like a part of politics that you specifically do that, so it can be interpreted in both ways. So it's not really an argument one way or the other. But the point of debating whether or not we should have a nuclear family is not to say that single parent homes can't work. They can. There's obviously many examples of single parent homes that are far better than many nuclear families. But what we care about is which one statistically works more often for more people and in more cases. If one of them works more often, then that's the one we should promote in a society because it's the most successful. Like if we're in a society and we want people to succeed more, we should try to promote the most successful methods of doing that and not promote the ones that don't work with a higher probability. So, and the way we should do this is advertising, education, tax credits, whatever, just simple methods to try and promote that kind of activity rather than another kind of activity. And since we know for a fact that statistically that single parent homes do not do as well as the nuclear family, then we should promote the nuclear family. Like obviously this isn't correlation. We can never prove causation ever. All of science is correlation as far as we can tell.
When
It
you
doesn't
say
matter.
when you say advertising, do you just mean like conservative propaganda at public expense?
Well, it's not conservative. So if we know it for a fact it works, this is no political thing. It's just a fact. We know this works.
What
I have a
political faction
question.
are going to be doing that advertising push if not
Well,
conservative?
yeah, the
It's not gonna
government
be
would,
liberals,
but
is it?
not a political faction. So it's apolitical. It's a fact. If there's a fact, like the same reason we promote science, it's not because it's a liberal agenda. Science is true. That's
No,
why
but
we
this is
promote
a
it.
conservative agenda. Let's not pretend.
No, no,
otherwise.
no, no. So again, if something is a fact and it is true, then there's no agenda here. It's
Yeah,
just
but it's
a
not the
fact
nuclear
and
family.
it's
It's
true.
having two-parent households, which could be 3, 4, 5-parent households. It's about income largely.
Okay,
And
so
it
we
could be-
know for a
and it
fact.
doesn't
Again,
have to be
you can-
heteronormative.
It's
It
not
could be a
just
gay
income.
couple.
It also is like communication skills,
But it
etc.
could be it could be a gay couple or a
Yeah, that's true.
non-monogamous couple or something.
So again, the data shows that yes, nuclear families do better. Like if you want to argue with the data and show, well, maybe it's this reason and not that
Data
reason.
suggests
Yeah, you can do
yes.
that. It doesn't matter. The data exists. We show that nuclear families do work. De facto, the case they do work
No
better.
one's saying they don't work. It's about what there are other things that do work as well, and not trying to force people to do things that are outside of what they're interested in. Maybe a gay couple are better than a certain hetero couple. Why should one have to have either of the genders or whatever?
Nuclear
presence?
family could mean gay people, though. Could mean a gay couple.
Yeah,
It can do, but that's
even if we grant what you're saying, it
Spartacus
doesn't
is
matter.
saying that. I don't think that's what Spartacus means, and I don't think that's what most people mean when they say this kind of.
I don't know.
Frankly,
Sproticus, are
follow-
you okay with gay marriage?
Yeah.
Okay.
The
well,
actual
let-
question you want to ask him is, do you consider like two gay fathers in the household the nuclear family? Is that the term you would use to describe that setup?
No, it's not.
Really,
Okay,
that's what I meant.
so then you are advertising for like, are you talking about like promoting like a heterosexual relationship?
I
Then
wrote your name down, Supreme. You can put your hand.
No, I'm just saying. I'm just saying that a mother role and a father role both statistically have been proven to give the child a better
no, that's wrong.
path forward in life. I mean, you can
No,
just
you're
do
adding a
what you want to.
qualifier there that's not true. You're adding the mother and the father part, where it's actually the two parents or more being a source of stability that's actually important. I can
This is
send
what
you.
I mean by saying it's Christian conservative propaganda, because this is what they mean. They mean.
Well, if you actually look up the definition of nuclear family, it
I mean,
actually
I
doesn't
don't-
have
I
anything to
don't
do with a
think-
man and a
Different
woman.
people interpret
Exactly,
things
yeah,
different
that's
ways.
what I'm
We
saying.
should
So I don't-
understand what they mean
There's
and then
three people
discuss.
talking at the same time. Okay, one moment. There's three people talking at the same time. I want to give it to. I want to make sure Sprout has a little bit of time to respond. Then I'm gonna give it to Supreme, and BX had a bullet to ask. Fuck, I fucked it up again. J Trump earlier. I don't know why it says a simple name. Sprout, you have a little
You
bit
do
of time
realize
to
that's a
respond.
joke, right? It is T Jump is my actual YouTube name. J Trump is just a joke.
Oh wait, really?
My
Yeah.
brain is melting now. Now I'm even more confused than ever.
You're gaslighting
That's-
us.
So,
I'm
yeah,
just gonna
James
call him.
started out as
I'm
a
gonna
joke.
call him Recliner Man. Are you on a recliner or a couch?
It's a lazy boy chair. Yeah, it's a
Lazy
recliner.
boy. Okay, I'm gonna call you Recliner Man now. That's your.
That's pretty
nickname. Okay.
nice.
So we're gonna throw it over to Sprout to finish up a response, and then Supreme and BX.
So I'm not suggesting that gay parents can't have kids. That's not what I'm suggesting at all. I'm just suggesting that the typical nuclear family is what should be pushed, or not pushed, but promoted at least, because and someone's saying that mother and father has nothing to do with children. Mother and father actually impact early childhood brain development. And this has been proven in study after study. It impacts the brain development of an early child.
Does it impact it in a
I mean, you can
positive
disagree
way?
with
Does
that
it
if you
impact
want
it in a
to.
way? Does it
It
impact it
impacts
in a
in a
way that's
positive way.
necessity to the child's development?
Mother and-
Because I can send
there
you
being a
some.
mother and a father impact childhood brain development in a positive way.
Okay, I mean that's very possible, but I can also send you multiple studies showing that when you compare children raised by gay parents as opposed to children raised by straight parents, they fare equally as well, if not sometimes better. So this.
Okay, so
So
I
when
mean,
you're saying we need to.
you can talk about
I
that.
feel like
You
all
can
this
talk about
data is
that.
being mixed together right now.
So if you want
and
to.
it-
If anybody wants to post data, post it in chat. I'll put it in the.
All right, here's
Okay,
a
I'll
Cornell
put it-
article.
I'll put it in chat. There's an NIH.gov. It's in your chat. Are both parents always better than one? Parental conflict and young adult well-being.
Are
It
both
goes further
parents
into-
that-
it goes further into going into biological parents. If you actually read the study. I mean, I can read you the abstract if you want to, but that would just take time, and I think it'd be a little bit annoying for the chat.
Sure, so I can
but
read you
yeah.
something different. This comes from actually this is a systematic review or a meta-analysis. I'd have to look over to be sure. But either way, this is looking over 79 different scholarly articles, okay? Taken together, this research forms an overwhelming scholarly consensus based on over 3 decades of peer-reviewed research that having a gay or lesbian parent does not harm children. So there's that, and then there's also this one here, which is a brand new study that actually just came out. I think it was recently, either in 2020, where they compared school outcomes of children raised by same-sex parents, and then the children that were raised by same-sex parents actually fared better than their heterosexual counterparts. So you might be right that there's probably certain like positive development that might come from like biological parents. That's fine, sure. Like there are also there's a conversation to be had about just being put up for adoption in general, maybe not being like as ideal as being raised by your biological parents all the time, whatever, there's a conversation there. But if we want to talk about the nuclear family and what that means to promote that, it sounds like what you're saying is you want to promote one man, one woman. And what I'm saying is you need to explain why that is, why you think it's worth promoting that, when the data that we have shows very clearly that gay parents can help children and are beneficial to children's growth just as much.
I mean, I'm really curious as to what your studies are and how they're better than NIH.gov.
Yeah, this is from the American
but to move
Sociological
forward-
Review, and this
I mean,
was
I
from
thought we
a.
were posting links. I thought we were posting links.
Yeah,
in
where do I
chat,
put the link?
But
Dylan?
You can
And
you're
Dylan-
supposed to
better
post,
than
you're
yours.
supposed to post a link in the Discord chat, and then I'll link it in the
Oh.
chat.
Okay.
Either's
Okay,
fine.
well,
But I'm gonna throw it now over to Supreme as the links are posted. Then BX.
I kind of want to attempt to reconcile the, I guess, the disagreement that was had between Hunter Avalon and BX Bullet earlier in the conversation, because I think broadly everybody agrees, and I personally fail to see the function in a statement like we need to encourage the nuclear family. First, can we get everyone to agree or disagree that, well, first off, having a two-parent household and having a one-parent household are mutually exclusive. You cannot have both, right? You can only have a set number of parents in the household. If you do not have a nuclear family, you cannot have a nuclear family, right? So encouraging one comes implicitly at the cost of discouraging the others, or it can have this effect. Can we broadly agree that this is true?
Sure.
Yes.
Oh, that's
And-
absolutely true.
That was the
Yeah.
point that I was
So,
about to make. To
I feel like this is
Yeah.
the perspective. BX Bullet, do you mind if I use you as an example? You're a single mother, correct? I don't want to like make personal statements or make you, say anything that makes you feel like personally attacked or anything, but I feel like I
Why don't
understand
you
your
just use
perspective
Why don't you just use like Hunter as an example?
because she can relay her experience.
it's fine. No, it's
It's
fine.
fine.
It's
Okay,
fine.
so
Okay.
from your perspective, you're hearing all these people say we need to encourage the nuclear family, and from your perspective, what you're hearing is, wow, people are saying they need to discourage my lifestyle,
But it's
which
really
is
funny because like I'm the only single mom on the panel, and I have all of these like dudes saying, "No, you should be married. It's better." I'm like, okay.
right.
Well, I
And
never
you
said
have
that.
chosen your lifestyle.
Well, no, but yeah, I kind of did.
Yeah,
but
nobody.
okay.
No, I
nobody
really
here
didn't.
has
Hang on,
said that.
hang on. We'll get there. We'll get there. You have chosen your lifestyle based on a reasonable a set of decisions that you consider to be reasonable and to be the best decisions for you in your situation, correct? I think Hunter,
Exactly, yes.
you acknowledge, or at least you respect that BX has made this decision in the best faith for the best decisions
Yeah,
that
I'm
she
not
can
a-
make for
Right.
her.
I literally
I'm not
said
on
at the be-
welfare. I'm not
And
trying to.
Even if
fine.
you were on welfare, I would pass no
Would you-
judgment at all. I literally said I'm not making a moral claim and that there are justifications there.
What Hunter,
Okay.
BX Bullet, what Hunter is trying to ask you to acknowledge is simply that like more money and more role models and stronger role models in the household tends to be better for kids.
I do agree, but that's why in my intro I was arguing for more of like an extended family structure, which I think is kind of what Hunter was also saying when he was talking about.
Yeah, but you
community.
said the benefits of the nuclear family was like a myth, kind of. That's what I was
Well,
calling
because
out.
there's plenty of other family dynamics that can work just as good for a
Exactly.
family, is what I'm
So wait a minute.
saying.
Yeah, but that doesn't mean that the overwhelming benefits are moot.
We can understand this.
There's one. There's okay. There's multiple people talking. I see. Supreme's kind of like going down a line of logic. I would like to see him like try to finish that line of logic.
So we can understand this. When you say the nuclear family or the benefit of the nuclear family is a myth, how are you interpreting the term nuclear family, BX Bullet?
Either a husband and a wife with two incomes raising a child, or married to, or also a gay lesbian couple. I think would be the same as long as they were married and combined income living in the same house.
So
would,
when you're
would a nuclear family not be a father and a mother who stays at home and takes care of the kids? Would that not be a nuclear family?
Of course it would, as long as they're married, or at least like cohabiting and sharing all finances in it. It's essentially married, common law marriage.
You say that it's a myth. What you mean by that? It sounds like to me that that you're saying like that in this case, like a husband or a significant other, a partner, could be supplanted by a best friend, or another relative.
What I'm saying is not that the nuclear family is a myth. I didn't say that. I said that this idea that we need to preserve it, I feel, is a myth. I feel like this is what I was going to say to T-Jump. I keep wanting to call you J-Trump now because now I'm hella confused. But, when you were talking about all these incentives, tax credits for married couples and this and that, I mean, doesn't it seem like if you're going to give tax credits and give incentives for one, you're doing the opposite to the other? And the single parents are the ones that are actually suffering. So it doesn't make sense to me to try to incentivize somebody getting married, because I could just put people in
I
this
think
situation where it's like, fuck, I don't want to.
there
So, like,
should
one
just
other
be
thing I can say
tax
is, like,
credits for people that have children. That
Right.
cuts out
I
whether
agree.
they're
I
single
agree.
kid families or
Yeah.
single mothers.
I
Or
don't
not.
think
The
we should try
okay.
to penalize. Hold on, I've been waiting
go
a
ahead.
long time. Hold on. All right, I don't think we should try to penalize married couples. And furthermore, I'd say that there are some states that make it really fucking hard to get divorced. Like, to the extent that it's almost impossible to do in some cases. And in that case, like, I've known people who just couldn't afford to get a divorce and they were just raised in a dysfunctional household. Like, they didn't get along at all. That kid's constantly listening to mom and dad fight, and you know, dad's sleeping on the couch. They're but cheating on each other. I know plenty of these types of situations, but they just don't want to get a divorce because it's fucking hard, you know? So they already do a lot of things to try to, like, ooh, stay together, stay married. Marriage is great, but like, there's plenty of situations and that's not best for the child. That's all I'm saying. And I don't think that we should be making it harder on single parents to make that decision, because we made a decision, like, we made an intentional decision.
I'm gonna grab this right here for a second, and I want to throw it over to T Jump, who has been wanting to say something for a little bit.
Yeah, she asked me a question. She asked, would be giving benefits to one group be doing the opposite to the other? Well, no. Giving benefits to one group does not denouncing the other group or taking benefits away from another group.
Not
Those are
taken
completely
away,
separate
but
things.
like, you're
Implicitly,
encouraging one at the expense of the other.
Right.
No, there's no expense there. Like, I can give money to one person without it being
Well,
at the
okay, so then
expense of the
you're
other
saying we
person.
should give money to both people then?
No, I'm saying that we should do
So you're
certain
just giving
actions
money to one of them?
No, don't like, you could listen for a minute and then you'll know. So what we can do is we can have different kinds of programs, some to benefit people in certain cases and some in certain other cases. The point of the programs to benefit the nuclear family would be incentives to try and get people to do it more, and the incentives for, or the assistance given to single mothers would be things given after it's already occurred. So there are different contexts in when we would apply these benefits. One for the nuclear family is before you have kids. So like high school education, teach this in high school education. That would be a good time to teach that the nuclear family is a good thing. Whereas for single mothers, obviously that would come after you have a kid. So when you apply the benefits would be impacted by the goal of the benefits. But giving benefits in one case is not denouncing or taking anything away from the other group. That's just not how it works.
Okay,
It
so
is.
get rid of student loans then. Why do people cry about getting rid of student loans?
What does that have to do with the topic?
Because people play that they're getting something and other people aren't, and they get mad.
Yeah, and in both cases, right, there were decisions that were made by individuals along the way, right? Which is where I say preserve the nuclear family, because then at least there's responsibility for people engaging in an act that they either knew or
Come
should
on,
have.
CTV.
Oh,
That's
come
so
on,
bad.
CTV. Oh, it's not.
It
It's
is.
not.
What if the partner's
completely-
abusive, though?
You say, look, I haven't said
thinking
anything
about
this whole
other
fucking
people's
time.
realities.
I haven't said anything this whole time, right? So I've been being quiet this whole time, right?
It's been nice.
So because of that, right, the responsibility that these people were engaging in this act, either known or should have known that it could have created a life, and then at the point where they did, that's where things like therapy, right? You know, learning conflict resolution.
Sure,
right?
just stay
Making
with
better
your
decisions in
abusive
life.
alcoholic
This is-
husband. Good
this
good
is
idea.
interrupting me right now and making a point to a very nuanced situation that seems to be like the focus of your attention rather than speaking about society as a whole is where we're at right now, right? So from here, this is where in the past a lot of these things would have been being more communal based, right? More community based by way of say like the church or something like that, right? Or that there was just real close community. So they would have been encouraged to stay together. It's different in the modern age because now we're encouraging people to just engage in freelance sexual activity. We're encouraging, people to say, oh, well, I just
No, we're
can't get
not.
along with somebody. Yet they are, right? We just had Pride Month last month, right?
What does
Okay,
that
so
have to
now
do
we're
with
back-
what?
has everything to do with it, right? Because you're celebrating sexuality. Thank you.
Wait,
Now,
but they can't reproduce.
they
So what would that
are.
even have to do
They-
with people having
Hello?
kids?
Hello, genius. Hush your mouth. Now, from here, this is where, because of the way that things are today, there's a much broader view when it comes to people raising families and kids and adoption and everything else, right? But the idea of not attempting to try to preserve the nuclear family is like, it's frankly kind of silly, because what you want is two people, right? Once they know that they're ready for a relationship and they want to have children, right? That they make those responsible decisions along the way, instead of giving people like parachutes, right? Or giving them, money, right? To say, oh yeah, you can just break this thing up and then it's not going to matter at this point because now we'll take care of you. Or there's these other things he'll step in to be able to do that for you, right? Instead of learning the types of conflict resolution, they would have been able to keep the people together that made a decision at the beginning of all of it.
So let me
I have
explain
such
what,
an issue with that.
because I want to
Like-
explain. So like I
Can I have
understand.
this interaction, then we're gonna move over to Kevin. You can continue. Just want to make that clear.
All right, so I understand where CTV is coming from. The problem is we already had a world like that. It was in the early 40s, 50s, and 60s. And you know what? We had a huge amount of spousal rape and abuse because spouses were unable to leave their abusive husbands because it was so socially stigmatized and so challenging to pursue a divorce. We didn't see conflict resolution breeding from this, okay? We saw women who were in marriages that they didn't want to be in being abused and being raped by their husbands. So no, this idea that by providing a safety net, it's somehow going to cheapen the sanctity of marriage and lead to women just leaving their husbands willy-nilly, it's not borne out at all, and it doesn't even make sense. In fact, although intuitively your solution might sound like it makes sense, it does not lead to positive outcomes. We have seen that historically, and it doesn't work. I also have something I want to say to Sprouticus, but it's a little off subject, so I'll stay on this subject. But Dylan, please let me say something to Sprouticus before we move on from this subject entirely.
Okay, well, since you were addressing me, then it's only right that I get to retort, right?
Sure,
So
yeah, I'm not saying it's off subject.
referencing a period of time that is 60, 70 years in the past as a justification for why those same types of principles, right, can't still be instilled today, considering that there's a lot more access to therapy, right? Being able to sit down and learn things like conflict resolution without having to be a part of a church or some organization
But we already
like
see
that.
people doing that, right? People already go to therapy. Like marriage counseling, for example, is like very
so
common.
every
I was
single
encouraged to do
example
that.
you just referenced in the past is done kaput, right? Because we
No.
understand that now people are engaging a lot more in mental health than they were in the past.
First of all, well, that's might be
the idea of-
true, but that doesn't mean that if they had access to therapy, that they would go there and suddenly work it
How do
out,
you
and the
want to achieve
spousal
this,
rape
CTV?
would stop.
How do you want to achieve?
How do you achieve
like,
this?
people
Don't
from
get
the-
married. 5 head.
Well, like that's,
Be right back.
that's what I'm asking. You're saying simply that couples just need to do this, but like, I
No,
don't
I'm
think
saying that if people want to slow down, like trying to grow up a little bit, right, and approach sex as a really adult thing, because there's a possibility of bringing a life into it, right, and not just being all willy-nilly, right, and just sticking it in anything that just moves around, right, unless you're being extremely, like 99.9 to 100%, like you're not going to get pregnant, then that's
Okay, how do
it's
you
about
achieve that?
responsibility.
So how do
at
you
the end
do
of the
that?
day.
Do you want to
Right?
give more
How does that
people
happen?
contraception? Are you in favor of expanding the Affordable Care Act because that was providing women with a lot more contraception and decreasing abortion rates?
No, I want individuals to be more responsible in their life. You tell
Got
me
it.
how
So
one
you want the
federal dollar is going to
unrealistic-
be able to make that happen.
This is
It's not
perfect.
unrealistic.
Yeah, this is great. I'm really glad you said this because
No,
now
all
we
you're wanting
yeah
to do
because
is
now we
provide a
know
safety net for people and their bad decisions.
that's
what
great
you're doing.
because now we know that all you have right now is a giant virtue signal, which is make better.
Not a
Make
virtue
better.
signal
Yeah,
at
it is.
all.
Yeah, it
It's
is because
about
let me
educating the
explain.
people. So
No,
if you
let me
really
explain
want
why.
I made bad
We've had.
decisions for my child.
Excuse me.
Jesus
Could I
Christ.
respond, please? It's because no. I'm not at all. It's obvious that this is. I'll explain to you why this is a giant virtue
I
signal
don't need you
because
to
we've
explain
already.
to me a fucking
All right, well then
thing.
let me explain it to the audience and someone that might have the brain
I
capacity to
would
understand
like
what I'm
to hear it,
saying.
and you'll be able to respond to it, CTV. I promise. Then we move over to Kevin.
We've seen abstinence training repeatedly. It doesn't usually work. Your solution is a massive virtue signal. It gives you the ability to sit up on your high horse and say, hickety hee ho, make better decisions, hiccup. When in reality, that does not lead.
Start making funny noises.
I am going to start making fun of you because what you said was very dumb.
You see how that works? And the fact that you're even here, right? And the fact that you can't even seem to form a sentence without
you interrupted me. How am I supposed to talk? And I can't.
Because you decided to start being condescending and
because
disrespectful.
you're virtue
exactly
signaling.
How much respect do you think that you're going to
Can
garner whenever you
can
start
I finish
acting
at
like
least
a
one?
fucking kid?
Gotcha.
Thank you for letting me
Okay.
know that corporal punishment should
I
have been administered.
I would like.
Okay, advocating for. Wait, I didn't even get to finish my
Honestly,
point.
I think
Dylan,
it's
wait.
so terrible
I didn't even get to
say
finish
that
what I was saying.
Women who
Hey.
divorce their husbands
Hey.
are making bad decisions. It's so
Yeah,
bad faith.
Yeah. 1 second. Is my mic fucked up? Can nobody hear me? 1 second. Hello, 1 2.
Hello.
Okay, then there's no excuses. Okay, Hunter, can you please finish?
I will
Say
make
your
this very
concept.
quick. The reason it's a virtue signal is because you're able to get up here and judge other people, tell them to make better decisions. And it sounds like you're not even in favor of actual policy solutions like expanding the Affordable Care Act, which Joe Biden is doing, and that provides more women with contraceptive access, which then reduces unplanned pregnancies and reduces abortion. That is a win-win for everyone in every scenario, but
And
you
none
don't
of that is actually the
Not a win
purview of the
for everyone.
federal government.
Wait, I would
see
like to
exactly.
hear-
You're against the solution so that you can instead get up here and virtue signal for a
Hello, genius, it's
non-attainable
not- you-
for an
you show me where that's
unattainable
spelled out in
solution.
the Constitution.
Okay, stop. Okay, stop.
And
Yeah.
also, if I been wanting to say this. This was from earlier. Sproticus. I looked up that study that you were using. I don't think, even though some of these conclusions you're making about the nuclear family I actually kind of agree with you on, I really don't think a lot of what you are saying should be trusted, because after you did, I don't know if you're just dumb or if you were dishonest here by actually citing this study, but I just looked it up just for shits and giggles, and they were literally comparing children living with biological parents to single mothers. So the study in the abstract was saying, in comparison, living with the biological parents here was better. Nowhere was this study saying that biological parents are better than gay parents and comparing that in any way. For you to try to use this study to argue that biological parents are a necessity is so dishonest. All I had to do was read the fucking abstract, and instantly I knew that you were wrong.
What a
Right,
fucking
so-
straw man.
Yeah.
It's ridiculously selfish for you to not engage in those very simple activities. Without going too Joker about it, we live in a society. How about you fucking act like it?
Wonderful. Now we're gonna throw it over to Hunter Avalone.
Oh shit, that was a twist I didn't see happening. All right. Yeah, so I have something written out for this one too. It's perfectly fine for private businesses to mandate employees and customers to be vaccinated. Government organizations such as the Equal Employment Opportunity Commission have long made this clear. I'm reading a quote here from an attorney. This is on CNBC. The EEOC's guidance that came out in December 2020 made it clear and paved the way to say that employers can mandate vaccines and that this isn't considered a medical examination, which is prohibited by the Americans with Disabilities Act. Finally, I'm going to take this up a notch. I think that the vaccine should be mandated on a state level. I'm sick of anti-vaxxers. Most of them don't have any good arguments unless you literally have a medical condition that will seriously hurt you if you take the vaccine. I have yet to hear a single good reason as to why someone won't just take the fucking vaccine. So I think it should be mandated on a state level. There's over 100 years of court precedent, which has ruled time and time again that states have a constitutional right to mandate vaccines. The 10th Amendment gives states this right, and Supreme Court decisions have ruled that states have a right to mandate vaccines by using their police powers as well. Finally, I don't like wearing masks. I certainly don't want to see another economic crash, and I don't want to see more small businesses being harmed. A vaccine mandate would lend to fix these problems, just as businesses mandating vaccines for employees and customers already has.
I think I can clarify all this. So the EUA is different from the BLU, which is the full FDA approval, in that they have not required robust, well-controlled clinical trials. And I know you don't want to believe me, but I can link you to I've actually read the FDA's guidance for industry on this. So while they have, okay, so it's a balancing act, right? Right now, there's an emergency. There needs to be a vaccine. I agree with that. Right. But the way this works is that the FDA says, we can't wait for all this to come out. We need to start getting vaccinations out. Let's do a comprehensive examination of the risks versus the benefits and make a decision. Do the risk outweigh the benefits or the other way around? And if the benefits outweigh the risk, let's go ahead and authorize it for emergency use. They are not finished tracking all of the data from side effects. That's what they're waiting for full approval. They are still waiting for that. So to say that it's an experimental medicine, you're a science experiment, that's not correct. That's not correct. Because they've already taken a lot of measures to make sure that the benefits outweigh the risks. But is it a fully approved drug? No, it is not. Has it been vigorously safety tested via robust, well-controlled trials? No, it is not. And I can prove this to you, if you guys are interested. But I also would like to point out that I personally think the vaccines are probably safe. But the hesitancy is real, and it's well thought out. The hesitancy is well thought out. It's a risk benefit, for everybody. Everybody's got to consider their own personal situation. And it's not just a bunch of dumb Trump QAnon supporters or whatever that you guys think that are saying no.
Could I hear one good argument for why somebody wouldn't want to get vaccinated other than it's an experimental drug or something?
Well, I personally have, so it's anecdotal, and you guys, but for me, my doctors have advised against it for now because of certain health situations that I have that aren't
Okay, that's
contraindications.
completely
But
valid. Yeah, that's I
well,
mean,
but there are a lot of people who fall in that camp, and a lot of us are feeling discriminated against because people are pointing fingers and telling us, "Get vaccinated. What's wrong with you? You're so fucking selfish. Get vaccinated." And it's like, listen, we've all made our personal health choices, right? Now, if somebody looked at the FDA data and said, "You know what? I think I'm going to wait because there's some side effects here and we're not really sure what the long-term effects of those can be." I can give IRI a good example. The RSV vaccine, which was studied on infants, which was found to have something called ERD later on, which is basically when you give somebody a vaccine during subsequent exposures to the virus, they can end up with a severe respiratory disease from that. That's something that a lot of vaccines actually have. So there
this
are
is
things
good.
that can happen from vaccines.
Sure, and you're right that there are potential risks there, but there's a couple things.
I was addressing IRI's comment that everything happens after 15 minutes. That's really not true. And people who understand things about the drug FDA approval process, I do. I spent 7 years in drug development under the guidance of the FDA. So I actually do kind of have a bit of professional experience here. The FDA, when they do their final approval, they visit the facilities. They audit them. They look in detail at all of the data, all of the numbers. They pour through it, and they can revoke at any time. It is possible that like 2-3 months down the road, they could say, "Ooh, yikes, let's revoke Pfizer." It's absolutely possible.
I doubt it. Actually, the FDA is
you can't say that you can doubt it because you have no idea what you're talking about, with all due respect.
Okay, so now
It can
Hunter and
absolutely
IRI
happen.
All right, so
Hunter and I are going to speak uninterrupted.
one of the vaccines, I'm not sure which one, is being expedited to be developed and fully approved by the FDA by September. Okay, so
Yes, that's the Moderna or Pfizer.
Sure. So there you go. It sounds like it's approaching full approval very soon. Of course, there are some valid reasons not to get the vaccine. Yeah, if you have a medical issue, then you don't want to get the vaccine, fine. But other than that, it really is just assessing the risks and assessing the benefits. The benefits we have right now are robust, well-conducted studies that have been significantly showing that the vaccine is effective against COVID. We've seen now that the majority of hospitalizations are people who have not been vaccinated.
Where are you pulling that information that there's been robust, well-controlled trials?
I can send you
because that's not
are the
required by
COVID-19
the
vaccines
EU.
rigorously tested according to the FDA.gov? Yes, clinical trials are evaluating ingestional COVID-19 vaccines in tens of thousands of study participants to generate the scientific data and other information needed by the FDA to determine safety and effectiveness. These clinical trials are being
was robust, well-controlled trials.
These clinical trials are being
by the EAU.
Okay, these clinical trials are being
clarify.
Okay.
That's all
These
I'm
clinical trials are being conducted according to the rigorous standards set forth by the FDA. So finally, when you say things like, well, look at this vaccine, that had a problem, look at this, that had a side effect, what you're doing there is you're ignoring the swath of data, which we have, that shows the majority of people that take this vaccine are fine and end up either not getting COVID, or if they do, they have significantly less symptoms and don't die from it. And am I wrong?
I'm not ignoring that at all. But I'm simply saying that there are absolutely deadly adverse events that can occur with anything you put in your body. So it's a misnomer
but that
to say,
defeats your
"It's
point
fine,
right there.
take
But
the vaccine.
no, but
Shut
see,
the
you
fuck
just
up, don't even
defeated
ask your doctor, just do
defeated
it."
your own point. That's a risk you take with any medication ever. This is
Right,
not
and
exclusive to the COVID-19 vaccine.
I didn't oppose my own point. My point was that people should have the choice to put whatever they want in their body, or they shouldn't be forced to put anything in their body. I've never been forced to take anything else in my life.
Sure, and they do have a choice. They can just not work at their job.
Right.
Yeah, okay. So let's just put them in fucking camps and have them fight each other in
No,
districts while
that's
we're
a
at it.
huge straw man and massive slippery slope. I'm not saying put
I
anybody
mean,
in
you're
camps here.
saying don't let them work.
No, I'm
did
saying
you know
if-
that the
I'm saying if-
majority of people who are hesitant on vaccines are minorities.
So what? They're dumb too then for that. I don't give a fuck. If someone's not getting a vaccine,
You know why
then they're
they
dumb.
distrust the government? It's because for decades, for a long time, like centuries, the government has treated them as fucking lab rats. They have an inherent
I understand that.
distrust of the
They
government.
have some valid reasons to distrust the government, but they don't have valid reasons to distrust this specific vaccine.
So the reasonable reason to not take a new drug is because there is a history of new drugs having long-term side effects that we don't know about yet. That
Okay, sure.
fear
So
itself-
my response to that would be that is just as it's equally unreasonable to not take the vaccine because we also don't know the long-term effects of having COVID. So if we're going to go ahead and take that route, there are long-term risks that we're taking in both cases. However, we do have some decent studies, of course, not 10 years down the line, that's true, but we have some decent studies, and so far, nothing has suggested that there are any long-term effects of the COVID-19 vaccine. So you might be right that some drugs have side effects. All drugs have potential side effects. The question would have to be, do those side effects outweigh the risk of getting COVID? Do those side effects actually outweigh this current vaccine? So yeah, I already kind of conceded that I think there's certainly a possibility that people have a thought out reason for not getting the vaccine, but usually it comes down to things like that. Like, well, I'm worried about the long-term effects of the vaccine. Well, what about the long-term effects of COVID? There's literally been long-term effects of COVID showing it can cause all kinds of lung issue and even infertility.
Okay, next is going to be Kevin.
Yeah, obviously it should be extended. Anything that keeps people off the streets is good in any time, let alone when we're talking about COVID and not wanting people ideally to congregate in like Skid Row or whatever would be probably an ideal situation. America is the richest nation that has ever existed. The idea that you have any homeless people at all is absolutely mind-blowing, let alone talking about the rights and wrongs of putting millions more on the streets seems very strange to me. A tiny sliver of the absolutely ridiculously bloated military budget would easily take care of this situation. I don't know why this needs to be talked about in the year of our Lord 20 and 21. I rest my case. Oh, actually, no, finally, fuck landlords. I rest my case.
Actually, the people that I'm most worried about now that the new moratorium, the eviction moratorium has been passed, are homeowners and landlords, especially like individual landlords, because there has been a moratorium on foreclosures, but that hasn't kept people who have to pay a mortgage. So if I'm not renting, if I took out a mortgage, right, to buy the home that I live in, nobody's going to evict me, but the bank can certainly tank the fuck out of my credit if I'm not able to make my mortgage payments. I could be in the same exact economic position as anybody who's renting, where I lost my job due to COVID, any other sort of financial hardships that came through COVID. But, your credit is not necessarily ruined by not being able to pay rent, but not being able to pay your mortgage will absolutely ruin you. Aside from that, people who own a home to rent out or whatever, this is an investment they're making. They have to raise the capital to make a down payment. It's a gamble. They're on the hook for any expenses that are incurred at the home, even if it's caused by the tenant. It's work, it's stress. It's like an investment that comes with a lot of trade-offs.
They could just not do that and like get a job.
Okay, but they choose to do it, and it's a service they perform for people who would prefer to rent.
But no
one
one's
reason or
you're
another.
asking like it's this great imposition on them, all these other things. They could just choose not to become a fucking landlord.
But now this is
Okay,
a bit of a. But Kevin,
you're making a disingenuous.
I want to fire through this really quick. I just want to ask a series of questions. Number one, do you at least feel some sympathy for homeowners that are not landlords, but they do not have the protections that the eviction moratorium lends to renters?
Yeah,
Their
absolutely.
credit-
Yeah,
Okay.
absolutely. Yeah.
Now, for landlords, you call them leeches.
Yeah.
So they save a down payment. They use it to secure a mortgage on a home that they're now renting out. What happens if the costs associated with operating that property end up superseding, the revenue that they get, right? The payments that they get in terms of rent, and then also the property value declines over time. They end up losing money. They end up more in the hole than before they
that's the
started.
risk
Are they still
reward, isn't it?
leeches?
Are you
Yeah, that is the
suggesting
risk
that-
reward. I agree, but are they still
Yeah.
leeches? They're still leeches
Yes.
even if they
they're
lose
just
on the
bad
investment?
leeches. Yeah, they're inefficient leeches. Yeah.
Okay, a leech is something that like sucks something up, but
Yeah,
we're
money
talking about
from-
someone who's
from
spitting
renters.
something out.
Yeah.
But they're also
But those
providing
renters-
something to those renters.
They
also,
are
right?
providing something. They're
Yeah, but they don't
they're-
need to. I mean,
yeah,
if you
it's a
lose
lot
out, you lose
easier.
out.
It's a
Oh,
lot
shit.
easier to
But the
rent
renters,
than buy
there's
a
a
house.
market of renters. There's a market of people who are searching for places to live in that don't require them to save $40,000 to secure a mortgage.
I was
Yeah,
one
but
of
why
those
should there have
people.
to
I'm
be
one of those
$40,000 for? Why should there have to be a $40,000 wait for that? Why can't there be some other assistance program in place to allow people to get onto the mortgage ladder? If we're going to do the capitalism thing,
There are
which you
assistance
seem to be-
programs.
Yeah.
There are assistance programs, but aside from that, there are other reasons you may want to not purchase a home. I love renting. I'll never purchase another home again, probably. I mean, unless I become a super millionaire, it allows me tons of freedom to move.
Good for you. Yeah, that's.
I think this is true for many,
But there's a lot of
aren't they?
people, Kevin, and I feel like what you're doing right now is now kind of the virtue signal, because it's kind of like the fuck landlords, very like lefty larpy
No,
kind of bullshit.
No,
but
it's
like,
not virtue signaling to
yeah,
say I
it
don't
is,
want
because
people
what
to
we're
be fucking
talking
homeless.
No, because
We're
we're
asking
talking
you to recognize
we're
the
talking
service that landlords provide.
and not even the service, but
system of
also
landlording.
not
I
even
don't
Let's
even
make
see
sure
it
we're
as a
doing-
service. I see it as them buying up houses and then them essentially forcing people, because
But
ultimately
that's why
you
I'm
have to live
asking you to
somewhere.
acknowledge the service.
Yeah.
Because you don't see it that
it
way,
as
and
a
we're presenting
service.
them to you and asking you to acknowledge or
Well,
disacknowledge them.
I don't see it fundamentally as a service. I see it as them withholding housing that could be used in other ways.
Let me ask-
in a
what should
different
they
Can I
do
ask
with
you
that
personally-
instead?
Have you ever owned a home, Kevin?
I'm literally a mortgage payer right now.
Okay,
So I
you're a
don't
mortgage
technically
payer
own
right now.
all of the home, but I'm a
Okay,
mortgage payer.
what would it look like if you wanted to move from that home?
What do you mean? What would it look like?
Well, okay, what is the process you would have to initiate if you were to move? If you got a job opportunity somewhere else, for example, that you wanted to take up. If you wanted to,
Well, I'd essentially have to sell this mortgage back to either another person or to the bank or something,
that
and then
look like?
get another mortgage / rent in the new place. Yeah.
what does that timeline look like?
It depends, I suppose. I mean, I've literally, it's the first mortgage I've had, so I've never had to end a mortgage, so I don't really know.
Okay, I've had to end a mortgage.
Okay.
It sucks. Like,
I'm sure it do. Yeah,
It
absolutely.
takes a long time.
it took me an entire year to sell my house, and I ended up having to pay for it, like because a buyer fell through or whatever. I ended up having to pay the mortgage on that house and rent where I was living simultaneously for about 3 to 6 months.
Oof.
Right?
Yeah, that sucks. You were being leeched off for months. It was terrible. Yeah.
Wait, who was I
I
being
agree.
leached off of by?
What?
Who was I being leached off of by?
Whoever you were renting from, I don't know who they are, but
Wait,
So
what would
why
it matter
why
if-
do you
What
act
would it
like
matter if I had bought a house? The point is, I moved out here because I was scheduled to go to school, and the
Okay.
people who were scheduled to buy my home fell through.
This is a
So
virtue
it
signal
wouldn't
by
matter if I had
definition.
bought a house or rented. It wouldn't matter. I would have been having to pay 2 payments for 2 houses. Why is this?
well, you shouldn't have to. Is my point. But I mean, yeah.
This
even
is,
okay.
even if
shouldn't have
Supreme
to
even
do
if
that.
Supreme would have had to go get another mortgage, Supreme would still be paying 2 payments for 2 houses. So I mean, I don't know why you're acting like landlords who fix up the house, who do maintenance on the house for the renter, who
In an ideal world,
and-
they do these things, yes, but there are many who are. sort of
well, when they
wrapped in
don't do these things, guess what? You
Don't
can
do.
withhold rent. You can take them to court and wait for
Oh
all
yeah,
this
people
stuff.
have money to go to court all the time, yeah, and the time and
Hours and hours of
freedom.
labor of having to like fix things up around my house in order to sell it. The thousands of dollars I had to spend on materials and stuff.
No,
This
no,
is-
you didn't have to do any of that. You didn't have
I did
to
if I
do it.
wanted to not lose like $20,000-$30,000.
Yeah, what do you-
Exactly, yeah, but you took the choice in the system, yeah. You decided to enter into that thing.
So-
That's on you. That's
And that's
So
why
is-
I'm thankful that there are base landlords to help me avoid those costs
based
and that labor in the
landlord.
future.
That's embarrassing. I'm sorry, that's
absolutely.
just embarrassing. Get over yourself.
I don't know. I'm kind of
Oh
with
my
Supreme
God. I
over
know-
here.
Wow,
I mean,
you're so judgmental, dude.
Kevin, it sounds like what
Like-
you're saying is like fuck landlords because it gets you some brownie points from like a lefty dipshit audience. But like there are plenty of people in the real world that benefit.
Hunter,
Hold
I'm
on,
not
wait.
like
Can
you.
I
Don't
finish a statement,
pander to
please?
me.
Wait.
Well, okay,
Wait, hold on.
We'll let Hunter. Wait. Okay, we'll let Hunter finish, but that means we're gonna
It's
make sure
o-
Kevin gets time to respond as well.
It's obvious that there are tons and tons of people in this country that benefit from the services provided to them from landlords. So I know it gets you brownie points with your lefty audience to say like fuck landlords or whatever, but when it comes down to it, there are ways that people benefit from that. And second of all, landlords are taking significant risks, yes, in order to have that property. Lastly, we're talking about like usually what we're talking about, at least here, I believe anyway, I think what Supreme's getting at is more of like that personal landlord. Like these individuals they need subsidies. They need to be protected from the economic fallout just as much as renters do. I feel like you're being really like cold and
Well,
callous
that's okay.
towards
Look,
a lot
I
of
don't
people.
want anyone to fucking get like financially crippled by any disease that happens.
Well, except
You
landlords.
did, you,
said
you
plus
did this.
landlord.
You did this and said yes. When BX Bullet was talking about a landlord that got fucked. So I mean I do want to point that
Yeah,
out.
I
and
was
keep
I
you-
was
keep-
joking.
keep
I
you
literally said
true.
to my I just said to my chat, yeah, based comrade Bullet or something, like it was a
Do
joke.
you
I was
recognize
doing a
that like
joke.
there might be a broken system, but like the individuals in that system aren't
I'm a
necessarily to be
comrade?
like
Yeah, no, it was a joke, BX. I was doing it was just a meme. It was a meme.
Wait, Kevin, I
I
have a
am a
question.
walking meme. I acknowledge this.
Kevin, I
I
have a
acknowledge
question.
that
Something
there
in
are
defense of
problems.
Kevin.
So, like, Kevin, can you acknowledge then that there are obviously broken systems? Maybe you don't like the
Yeah.
system of renters and landlords, but that's not fair for you to incriminate the individuals in that system.
No, I'm not saying that each individual landlord is like some terrible thing. Although I would say,
Yeah,
companies-
come
What you said was
on.
fuck
You
landlords.
You were said
What
they
you
fuck
said-
landlords and
what
that they're
you said.
leeches, dude. Like,
Let's-
yeah.
yeah, no,
wait,
that's the
let's
systemic.
respond.
But in the same way that when you say like some people have a problem with like all cops are bastards, no one's saying that every single cop is individually like an evil person who tortures.
Yeah.
I
Oh,
hate that
boy.
slogan
The
too. I think
system-
that
the
slogan's
role
dumb
in the
AF.
system they
Let's let
play
him. Let's
is
let him.
terrible.
Okay, can we? Okay, remember it's everybody versus one person. So let's make sure that he was able to. I didn't even get to hear what he said. Can you repeat what you said? I didn't get to hear it in its entirety.
I want to say something in defense of Kevin, if possible.
Well, okay. I'll have Kevin
Yeah, go for it,
clarify.
man.
Then we'll throw it to. Oh, just go for it. Okay.
Yeah,
well,
yeah.
then okay.
So I think Kevin sees the entire process of home ownership as leeching because of his political views. I think he
Well,
says
he's a
if you-
homeowner then.
that's fine, but
Because
so
it's
he's,
cheaper than
he's not.
renting.
Wait.
It's
So
cheaper
he's
than
not
renting.
attacking.
Not
He's not attacking all homeowners or
No,
all.
hang on. I'm sorry.
people.
You don't get to tell me what I know is true about my situation. Buying a house was cheaper than renting in the area I live. That's
I'm
just
agreeing with
true.
you, Kevin. So they're saying that you're attacking renters, and I'm saying you're not. You're not attacking renters. You're attacking the entire process of owning.
Yeah,
a
the
home.
system is
Yeah.
fundamentally.
Then why'd you say fuck
abusive, as far
landlords
as I'm
and that they're
concerned. It's
leeches?
exploitative.
Because
You aware?
he's
Are
being
you
funny.
aware why?
Wait,
you
I want
observe
to.
why?
Wait. I want to let T Jump finish his line of questioning.
Right. So Hunter was like accusing you of attacking landlords, and you're not. You're attacking the entire system of home ownership because of the socialist paradigm you're coming from, and so they're mischaracterizing what you said as being an attack of landlords, that they're like bad people, when really you're just
No.
criticizing the entire thing of home ownership as a whole.
That's not
Yeah,
fair. That's being
basically,
way
yeah.
too charitable to his argument. What he said was fuck landlords and that they're leeches.
I'm sorry.
If he
that
doesn't,
triggered
if,
you,
hold on,
Hunter.
Kevin.
I'm
If
sorry
you have a
your ass
problem,
pained about
if
that,
we want
friend.
to charitably interpret your argument as being a problem with the system, that's fine. I acknowledge that there are problems with the systems, but just like I wouldn't say ACAB.
you?
Yes, just like I wouldn't say ACAB because I don't think all cops are bastards. I can also recognize that the system of policing is broken. So yeah, if you want to apply more nuance to your points, you should have done that, not said fuck landlords and that they're leeches.
Well, no,
Right.
I did. I did the end. I literally did the end thing of
Well, you're
saying
doing
cop
it now,
landlords
you're
right at the
back.
end.
It
after
seems
having
like
made
You're
the
trying. It
charges.
sounds like you're trying to walk back your
I
point.
can't. Wait. I can't.
I'm not.
hear
I'm
him
not
even
walking
speak.
anything back.
Okay.
Yeah, so I guess
so
if you'll allow me
can
to
we-
defend Kevin again.
Sure, but then I want to move on to the eviction moratorium.
Right,
Yeah.
right. So I think you need to use the principle of charity in trying to understand what he's saying and not expect him to say everything perfectly. I think that's an unfair request of Hunter. I think Kevin's point, if you understand enough of his political position, was clear, especially clear to his audience. So I think that the point he was trying to make, if you really listened to his worldview, you know what he was trying to say. He wasn't literally attacking landlords. He was just being edgy because he's at
Okay.
Kevin.
T-Jump.
So he's doing it for the memes.
That's
not
T-Jump,
helping.
I'm CTV, the real hippy dippy champion. We all know this. The fact that Dylan couldn't respond to a DM earlier in the week only shows me how scared he is of me. It's all clear, right? We understand this. So, for everybody else that was on the panel tonight, Hunter and Kevin were clearly the two most brainless people on the panel. All they could do was just interrupt. And Supreme, I really enjoyed your interaction. IRI, always a pleasure. Sprout, a little rough around the edges, but you're getting there, brother. VX, always a pleasure.
Okay. Now I'm gonna throw it over to.
Am I supposed
Hunter.
to leave?
Oh, you
No.
can if you want. You don't need
Oh.
to. You can leave.
But I think I just want to point out. I think it's really interesting that CTV starts bitching people out and then leaves like a little
All right,
pussy.
it's
Yeah, what's
outros.
up?
We can't do. Hey, it's outros. We're not allowed to do that.
No, that's cool. No, I write to
Yeah,
reply.
yeah,
you know.
yeah, but you can't say that during the outro. Not now. Okay, Hunter.
Yeah. Thanks, Dylan, for having me on. Guys, you can check me out at my username, Hunter Avalone. Fun discussion. Enjoyed it. I enjoyed the talk about fucking landlords, vaccines, and etc. Yeah. Thanks, Dylan, for hosting. Really enjoyed it. Don't forget to hit that subscribe button and click the bell so you get notified when I drop a new video.